Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Said Dan channel. I'm now convinced that we're in some sort of bizarro world because former SEC chair Jay Clayton is now speaking as though he's one of us. In fact, I'm going to share with you a transcription, something that Jay Clayton said on national television today. And I'll tell you this, if I didn't tell you up front that this quote, this transcription was from Jay Clayton, and if I had instead told you that this quote is from an XRP holder, you'd be like, yeah, damn straight. We've all been saying that for years now. Absolutely. So for some reason now, Jay Clayton is speaking to a certain degree here, like we here in the XRP community have. But you know what? I don't know what the hell is going through his mind here. I don't believe that there's any sort of real attempt at redemption here. I can't get in his heart and mind, but it would just be hard to believe that is all. But he has caused so much damage, you know, to so many of you that are listening right now, also to me. The actions, the decisions that this repulsive man has made has caused real financial harm to real people. And I just, it just makes me want to puke a little bit. It's kind of like coming up in the mouth a little bit when I hear him speak and say crap like this. It's just totally, it's just from him. So I'm going to share with you some responses from a few attorneys within our community, including attorney John Deet. And then I'm going to share with you some pushback from a former SEC attorney who does not agree with the way that things are being characterized. And you'll not be surprised to hear me state at the outset, I respectfully disagree. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so here's the clip on your screen. It was on CNBC, and this clip was shared by Cameron Winklevoss. And so just from this one tweet, it's now been seen 621,000 times since the time it was shared on Twitter just this afternoon. So that's not counting when it was shared on live television and all the other individuals sharing this. So this is making the rounds, let's say. And so here's what Cameron Winklevoss wrote. A must-watch. Former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton describes the new and deeply un-American ethos of the SEC under Gary Gensler. If we're not losing cases, we aren't suing enough businesses. This is a total abuse of power. So here's the actual transcription. These are real words that came out of real Jay Clayton's stupid little face hole. What you're hearing from the leaders on the regulatory organizations is, if we're not losing cases, if we're not being pushed back on by the courts, we're not doing enough. Now think about that for a second. That is a fundamental shift in how we, as Americans, view the role of the government. I don't want to live in a place where I know the government is going to bring cases that they think they're going to lose. Imagine you're the person who is the subject of that case. Well, isn't that freaking rich? Jay Clayton. Now think about this. Let me pause here. Because Jay Clayton brought the case against Ripple on his last day in office. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. I think that was his last opportunity, and the case was still baking in the oven. It wasn't even quite ready yet. And all these bogus nonsense theories got put out, but ultimately is now known as the embodiment theory, that all sorts of transactions, even those in secondary markets, represent the efforts of Ripple, so on and so forth. And there's a reason that as the SEC cited that in paperwork that it filed to the court, it did something almost unheard of. It made such a broad, sweeping allegation as that, but didn't include a footnote referencing the case from which that precedent came. Because there is no precedent. They just made it up. They made it up wholesale. Because reasons, folks. Because reasons. And so to see this guy sitting here spewing this nonsense out of his stupid little face hole, sorry, it's just not ringing true, buddy. I ain't buying what you're selling. And then he said, this is an ethos now. Unless we're losing, we're not bringing enough cases. That may be fine for private litigants against each other, but when you have the power of the state, You're supposed to only bring cases and only make rules that you think are going to pass judicial muster. Well, how about that? That sounds exactly like something that would have come out of the mouth of an eloquent XRP holder. But it came out of this little lizard man on your screen here. That's a little bit of a surprise, isn't it? Isn't that a little bit of a surprise? After the nonsense attacks, the incoherent arguments, legal arguments? Because I'm telling you, like, it's not a coincidence that we've been seeing in pretty much all of the crypto-related cases that have been unfolding in calendar year 2023. We've seen the judges push back in every single one that I can think of off the top of my head. We've seen judges push back against the asshat prick attorneys, those spawns of Satans at the SEC. I can't think of one where that's not the case. Seriously. And I've been highlighting that over time. I don't think that's, it just happens to be the case. It's not coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence that in the SEC v. Ripple case that you get these arguments. You got the argument from Judge, it was literally, it's my favorite thing that's been said in the case, that the SEC is not engaging in a, quote, faithful allegiance to the law, end quote. That was from Judge Netburn, magistrate judge in the SEC v. Ripple case. We can all see that. And so anybody can deny it on their side, but we know that they're full of crap. We know that they are saying things that they must know aren't true. So anyway, that was retweeted by attorney James Murphy, who goes by the name Meta Lawman, and he wrote, "Yes, I agree. This is a must watch. And as you watch, remember, this gentleman authorized the SEC case against Ripple on his last day in office." And so again, I can't help but laugh sometimes at just how disgusting and awful this is. Because Clayton had to have known that the novel theories that they were coming up with in the back rooms of the SEC were complete and utter garbage and weren't tested. He knows that. Of course he knows that. Freaking disingenuous lie. Oh my God. Attorney Deaton also retweeted this, and he said, "This is exactly what the judge in the Ripple case was alluding to when she said SEC lawyers were not maintaining a faithful allegiance to the law. You're supposed to have a good faith basis to bring a case, meaning you believe you can win by applying the law. You don't wait until a judge tells you otherwise. Shameful on SEC Enforcement Director and Gary Gensler." Well stated, Attorney Deaton. Then there was this from Santiago Velez. He wrote, "What an amazing hypocrite. He brought a case against Ripple one day before retiring, knowing full well SEC had a good chance of losing on Howie prongs, all to support insiders. His audacity is incomprehensible." Spot on. Then you have attorney Fred Rispoli, who responded to attorney Murphy, and he said, "Jay Clayton starts his public image rehabilitation tour. Who's buying it?" Yeah, well, I ain't buying what he's selling. I'm definitely not buying what he's selling. So it's like, again, what he's saying on the surface, you just listen to it, you're like, yeah, that sounds good. That's what I believe. But then when it's coming from him, it somehow becomes gross because I know he's just saying crap. He's saying crap he doesn't believe. He thinks it makes him look good. I guess. I can only speculate here. I don't know what the hell's going on in his stupid little mind. But I do know that what he did is the opposite of what he's preaching here. I know that. I know that to be fact. Now you have former SEC attorney Mark Fagel respond to attorney Rispoli. And again, Rispoli said, "Who's buying it? Who's buying what Clayton's selling here?" And I already said, not me. Well, it turns out attorney Fagel is not buying what attorney Clayton's selling either. Former SEC chair and attorney Clayton. He's not buying it either, but he's not buying it for a different reason. So here's what attorney Fagel says. Formerly with the SEC, says, "Not me. He's misstating how the SEC operates. The SEC has been saying we should be losing some cases for decades, including under Clayton. That doesn't mean bringing cases without a good faith basis. It means being willing to take on cases with complicated facts and law." Okay, pause right there. If you were just talking on a conceptual level there, what attorney Mark Fagel said does sound reasonable. But here's the problem. When you compare that to what is occurring in reality, they do not align. These things do not align. Which is why, again, as I was stating just a few minutes ago, if you look at the degree to which the SEC judges, or I'm sorry, the judges in these SEC v. crypto, cases at large, multiple cases. If you look at how they've been responding this year, these judges are just excoriating the SEC for various reasons in various cases. Obviously, tremendous overreach, not operating in good faith. This isn't something from our imagination, and Magistrate Judge Netburn agrees. Lacking faithful allegiance to the law. So then you can talk, as Attorney Fagel is here, you can talk about a concept, this idea, of course, understanding, of course, you're never going to win everything, and saying that doesn't mean that cases aren't brought on a good faith basis. Okay. But I don't believe these cases are being brought on a good faith basis. That's the problem. And I think intellectually honest people in crypto, broadly speaking, just about all of us get that. So if Attorney Fagel doesn't feel that way, that's fine. I do get the sense in general like he's saying what he actually believes. I just don't find his case compelling here because I've been observing this. Like I got close enough to front row seats. It might as well be. I'm watching everything that's happening as the news stories unfold on social media and on Twitter, actually, which these days is quickly becoming a better place to get, accurate news stories. I kid you not. I never thought I'd say that. I really never thought I'd say that in my life. Like if you would check like 5 years ago. But seeing all this unfold here, the way that it has, I know what I'm observing here. I know how to hear two opposing viewpoints and determine which one makes more sense. And there's a reason that people that jump into crypto, and even if they have a clean slate there, a blank template, after they get the facts and circumstances, after it's presented to them, the typical person is not going to be siding with the SEC and believing that they're just acting in good faith all the time. Attorney Fagel also says, if the SEC only filed slam dunk cases, they'd be walking away from a lot of serious legal violations. Indeed, most people complain that the SEC is not aggressive enough in complicated matters, not that they're too aggressive. See, again, this takes the argument away from what we're actually saying. What I'm saying, at least, at a minimum, what I'm saying is that these cases are not being brought about in good faith. That's what I'm saying. Not that they can't risk and say, hey, well, we don't know what a judge or jury might say. But we're going to, so I'm not, just be clear, I'm not saying that the SEC shouldn't bring cases that it thinks it should bring because they're afraid of how a jury might respond. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the SEC is full of very bad faith actors who are not bringing cases on a good faith basis. That is what I'm saying, which is different than what Attorney Fagel is saying here. So if what he was saying here is that the SEC, hey, but if it were true that they were operating in good faith, and then they lose as a result because you don't know for sure what a judge or jury is going to do, I'd say, okay, I have no problem with that concept. Where's the good faith? I do not see it. I simply don't see it. Somebody named Joe responded to Attorney Fagel and wrote, so it's okay for government-funded regulator to use citizens' taxes to launch suits, costing law-abiding investors billions without having a strong case? Going by this, it's also then okay to arrest without evidence or sue without good cause? And Attorney Fagel responds and says, that's the opposite of what I said. And to be fair, that's not what he said. That's the opposite of what I said. The SEC only brings cases it thinks it can win, but every party loses cases. Juries are fickle and unpredictable. And if the SEC only brought slam dunk cases, if such a thing even existed, they'd be letting a lot of lawbreakers walk. So I was pausing again there. I want to bring this point home yet again, because that's certainly not what I'm arguing. I am not arguing that. I understand that you can have a jury or a judge that is bad at using, the brain matter. They're not good at utilizing that. Or maybe they don't have very powerful brain matter. I got that. I understand that. And some people are actually stupid. I do understand this. It's about bringing good faith arguments. That's what's not happening here. You're bringing bad faith arguments, SEC. And then on top of that, you have, as he cited here, fickle and unpredictable juries. On top of that. And then Attorney Fagel says, personal experience. When I was at the SEC, we brought a pretty vanilla insider trading case, great facts for us. And we were shocked when we lost. The only jury trial my office lost in my 16 years there. The jury was terrible. One juror asked us afterwards if the defendant was going to jail. and he had just voted for the defendant in a civil case where jail isn't even on the table. That sort of thing happens. Should we not have brought the case because of the risk we might lose? No, bring the case. If it's a good faith case, bring the case. It has to be a good faith case, and that's what I'm arguing here, and everybody can see this. I know Attorney Fagles, he disagrees, and that's fine. I can tell from everything I've ever read from him. He disagrees, and he's entitled to his opinion. That's fine. But I firmly believe that that is just incorrect analysis, and that's why he's in the minority. Sometimes minorities can be correct. Small populations of individual people, they can be correct. And then sometimes the majority comes around and ends up agreeing with the minority, and then that, as a result of the position, becomes the majority. I understand things like that happen, of course. But in this particular case, he's on the wrong side of the history here. And he's arguing something that I just think misses the point. Again, it's the bad faith. It's the bad faith. That's what I'm talking about here. So yes, of course, you can have, and this does sound ridiculous. I'll take him at his word that this happened here. That they were like, yeah, of course we're going to win this. The facts are on our side. It's very obvious. So let's say that this is something where they did bring a case in good faith. And then they had stupid jurors. And they came to a wrong conclusion. And one, think about this, one got to vote the way that they voted for the defendant, and then didn't know what that meant, and was wondering if if the defendant was going to go to jail. Like, that's so disgustingly bad that all I can do is laugh. Like, that is absurd. It is so absurd that I have to laugh because it's that stupid. So yes, there are stupid people out there and bad decisions sometimes, but come on. This really grinds my gears, folks. Frickin' Jay Clayton. What a prick. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.